Are you ready for the last question?
Yes.
Is a quiet quitter salvageable?
Depends on which, some are, some aren't. Some really aren't quiet quitters. They're behaving like a quiet quitter because they're desperate to send effective and honest messages to their leaders that we have a culture in trouble. So I talked about today this notion of thoughtful leaders. A thoughtful leader is someone in an organization who loves the organization with all their heart. They have more commitment to the organization than even the CEO or the executive team.
Regardless of title.
Regardless of title, they've been through the ups and the downs. They've seen the prima donnas come and go, but they believe so much in the mission of the organization, and they have seen people and prosper, and they have prospered by the work of the organization, that they want to make sure that the organization is going to live on another day, so that other people can benefit the way they have. And so these folks are not negative. They're ultimately team players. It doesn't have to be their way, but they see themselves as the guardians of the organization because they have the best pulse of anybody in the entire organization. Because they're so trusted, every level or every layer in the organization is talking to them. And so they know where all the bones are buried. They know the true pulse of the organization, and they see themselves as the guardians of the organization. So they don't want, again, remember, they want their number one value, whereas Boomers was more, theirs is stability. And not stability for them, but for the stability of the organization. And so they want to make sure that every decision that is made is for the good of the organization, and it's not going to cause an unnecessary hardship. So they want input, not for ego's sake, but they have perspective and information that no one else has in the room that needs to be heard so it'll affect the quality of the decision. And so if you leave them out of the input process and you're a top-down leader, they will begin to exhibit quiet quitting behavior. And it's really not part of their being. It's really, if a thoughtful leader goes negative and begins to act like a quiet quitter, and a quiet quitter, we're talking about their energy level changes, their enthusiasm about the organization changes. They begin to pull away in their passion, and it's not been who they are. They're doing that because they're trying desperately to catch people's attention that, guys, we got trouble here in River City. And so typically a quiet quitter that is really it's a tactic to try to ring the alarm bell. If you address that issue, then that quiet quitter who is a thoughtful leader will return back to their previous one. So if it comes from that standpoint, yeah, they're not only salvageable, but the quiet quitting actually is a good sounding point. It's saying we've got to fix this culture. Now, on the other end, there are some quiet quitters that have always been quiet quitters. Narcissist, it's about me. If you don't meet my needs, if you don't give me what everybody else has, I'm going to be ticked off, and so forth. It is very difficult to change a quiet quitter's behavior. However, there is no chance to change if you don't have conversations with them. There is no chance that they're going to change if you don't have accountability discussions with them. If you don't share your expectations with them, and why they are shooting themselves in the foot, and why they're losing trust in the organization, and why they're actually sabotaging their careers, because you really don't want quiet quitting behavior in your executive room. And so the answer is some can't. Some will with some struggle, and some it's easy for them to change if they're addressed. So it's not a black and white. It's that gray area that most of leadership is found in anyway.
So the first part of that answer is some are, and I feel when you say thoughtful leader, the word care just keeps coming back to me. They care.
It comes from a place of sincerity.
Correct.
Whereas some of the others we're talking about comes from a place of manipulation and narcissism. It's a completely different.
They want friction. They want trouble.
That's right. They want to be the center of attention.
Correct.
They want to be banging the drum that this place is screwed up. So those folks are very difficult to change. In fact, if you spend a lot of time trying to help them to change, it will be misinterpreted by others in the organization that you're actually rewarding this behavior, and what gets rewarded gets repeated, and so you end up having a bunch of other people acting the same way. So you've got to be very careful there of how much time if you're working at their change more than they're working at their change. Let me rephrase that again. If you're working at their change more than they're working at their change, it's time to start coaching out and not up.
Yes. Being very intentional on where you're putting your energies.
Yes.
If you want it more than they do, and there's been effort.
Yes.
And others have seen it, then probably a time for a conversation.
It is. And the reason for that is if you've got two people in a relationship and one is less committed to the other, to the change, the one who is least committed actually gains power in a relationship. And anytime you have power in a relationship instead of partnership, it's not a healthy relationship. And that's why I constantly coach leaders. You want to coach them and give them the opportunity, but if they won't receive it, that's their choice. It's not yours.
Thank you for answering those questions.
Didn't know what was coming.
It's not an easy topic. It's a messy topic. A ton of organizations are dealing with this, but the things that you don't talk about, you become naive and ignorant on, and then that just is going to bring about trouble.
You bet.
In an organization. So thank you, Dr. Fred, for being on the show. We really appreciate you answering those questions.